Alright, hello, my name is Jason Krastens, and for my film to review for my final project, I chose Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. Because I wanted to do a film that was, really silly and stupid just for the heck of it. And I kind of wanted to do Spider Baby, but this one seemed like the second best choice, so I went with this one. And I can honestly say I was not at all disappointed. This was exactly as cheesy and ridiculous as I hoped it would be. And so I hope you will enjoy my review and not mind the fact that I went way overboard with the number of stills I actually took, because there is just so much in this film that is ridiculous that there's just so much to talk about. So, without further ado, let us move on to the stills. And so we begin with my opening picture. This one is of a reporter at the North Pole talking to Santa Claus. As you can see, Santa's workshop in this universe is not exactly a secret place. And they do like a whole TV program where this reporter goes in and talks to Santa Claus and stuff like that. Which is, of course, how the Martians see them, because the Martians can pick up Earth TV signals all the way on Mars and see Santa Claus. So, yeah, this is like the first really weird and stupid thing in the film. It was just, kind of absurd and ridiculous. So that's why I included this there. And now we move on to the first revealing of the Martians. As you can see, their headgear is completely and utterly ridiculous. I mean, just look at that thing. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the top of a salt shaker with a handle and then two antennae, and it's just what's the point of the handle thing? I really don't get it at all. And I mean, I guess I can sort of understand the antenna maybe, but like the handle thing just looks completely ridiculous, and I think is an excellent example of how poorly made the costumes and stuff in this film are. I mean, it's just silly. And more cheesy 60s sci-fi silliness in the fact that to open their doors, they point their fingers at them and have them magically open. Like they use the force of their finger power, like, "Oh, I command you to open!" Instead of just walking and having a sensor that opens it like it does in almost all sci-fi films. I just, just another little silly detail I think was completely ridiculous and overdone in this film. And here is another fine example of Martian technology. Their weird shower bed thing that the kids sleep on. It's like some kind of shower that they hang over their beds, and it showers them with magical sleepy dust that goes and puts them to sleep because they can't naturally go to sleep or something like that. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. So just, another stupid thing I think was put in the film that doesn't really make that much sense. And now here enters the ancient wise Martian guy, whose name I forget because it's some stupid thing like Gorlox or something like that. Anyway, they go down to the place where he lives because their children are like all depressed and robot-like, and they're trying to understand why they're not happy. And so they go and seek the wisdom of the ages from the oldest and wisest Martian out there. And he enters and leaves every single time with a great magic poof. And I don't understand what it is with movies and having people appear in magic poofs like that. I mean, I guess it was interesting and original when it was done in The Man in the Moon in like the 1900s, but 50 years later, I really don't think you should keep having people enter and exit with poofs like that. It's just silly. Ugh. Now we move on to the great old Martian guy himself. I mean, God, he was just so ridiculous and cheesy with the way he talked. I wanted to punch him or something. He talked like, "And you shall help the Martian children and teach them to have fun by going and kidnapping the Earthling Santa Claus and bringing him to Mars. So says the great wise old Martian." Oh, man. And he's so dark, like you can barely see anything on him, and like even this whole film was just like really dark, like they were trying to hide the horrible makeup and effects by making it as dark as possible, so you couldn't see anything. I mean, seriously. And here we get to the main console of the Martian ship that they go to Earth in, which basically to me looks like nothing but a pillar with a bunch of blinky lights and switches. And they're like constantly deploying rockets for no apparent reason. Like as soon as they enter Earth orbit, they're like deploying retro rocket, deploying medial rocket, and all this stuff. And did they even say like they're not gonna fight anybody, and they're just trying to be peaceful and stuff, and all they want to do is get Santa Claus, but they keep deploying all these rockets by flicking their little switches and making their little lights go beep beep. So yeah, I don't get what's up with that. Why are they launching rockets if they're trying to be peaceful? Ugh. This picture may not look like much from what you can see here, but I included this because this is apparently the picture of what it looks like in Earth's atmosphere from the Martian spaceship. And it's kind of a continuity error because it looks like they're still in space when the movie clearly states that they're flying in the Earth's atmosphere and trying to look for Santa Claus. And they've, just turned on their anti-radar devices to protect themselves from all the stock footage of planes that have been flying about and trying to detect them. So, it's just kind of a little stupid continuity error that was included in there. And here is a picture of the Martian spaceship, once again flying through Earth's atmosphere. Now, the direction it is going is downwards, and it is not landing. The Martian spaceship is actually flying backwards with the flame pointing towards the direction that the ship is moving. Which is like, really, why? I don't understand if they did that on purpose or if they just had such an incompetent editing department that they did not even notice that the ship was going backwards while the film was rolling. And just, how do you miss that? I mean, seriously, man. And here is a picture of the Earth children, who are supposed to be all cheerful and exciting, unlike the boring and robotic Martian children. But somehow I think they actually end up being more robotic, because they are... I don't know if I've ever seen worse child acting in my life. I mean, seriously. I really think they just took the kids of like some of the film crew and just like stuck them in there to save money or something. Because I mean, like, just look at that little girl. It's like just look at that face. She just stares blankly into space. And I didn't even take that at an inopportune moment when, she just happened to make like a weird blinking face. That she actually maintains that face for like a whole minute while the boy is having a monologue with the Martians. And I mean, And here is a picture of the most technologically advanced polar bear ever. Okay, not really. It's like it's like the kids are at the North Pole and they escaped the Martian ship and they're wandering around, and so of course there has to be a polar bear that comes and tries to eat them. And it is like literally a guy in a suit crawling around and going grrr grrr and like pawing around in the snow hole that the kids are hiding in and trying to get them. But of course, the kids aren't hurt. And the thing that manages to scare the polar bear away is exactly what I am going to talk about next. Behold Torg, mighty super robot of the Martians. Behold his technologically advanced cardboard armor plating and plastic heating duct tubing arms of mighty strength. With his mighty power, they plan to capture Santa Claus and bring him to Mars. I mean, I think a 6-year-old making a robot Halloween costume could make a better costume than this. I mean, seriously, just look at this thing. It's like a bucket with 2 light bulbs and an obviously cardboard, that is obviously cardboard chest, and like 2 heating duct tubes for arms. And he like captures the children by hugging them with his death grip. I am not making this up. Just ridiculous. And here we see the only force in the known universe that is powerful enough to stop the mighty Targ. Santa Claus calling him a toy! No, literally. What happens in the movie is that Tark walks into Santa's workshop and, tries to use his death grip to capture him, but Santa's just like, oh, well, that's a very, very well-made toy. And then he stops attacking him and becomes a toy because Santa said that he was a toy, and so now he doesn't attack anybody anymore and just sits there because Santa said so. And apparently that is the only thing that is necessary to defeat the mighty technologically advanced super robot of the Martians. Indeed. And now we have the obligatory German scientist with a corny and obviously fake accent that is even worse than this one. Apparently they are going to use their spaceship to go to Mars and rescue the children and Santa Claus, which, of course, the plot forgets about completely and is a dead end and obvious complete continuity error because Santa Claus rescues himself. And here we have Santa Claus sitting in the prison hold of the Martian spaceship, gently stroking the backs of the children and telling them comforting words about how everything is going to be all right. And I know this was the 60s and people didn't know that pedophiles existed back then, but the way he pets them and like holds them close to him is just so creepy and unnatural, even for Santa Claus. I mean, ugh, Jesus. And now we have here what is probably the most ridiculous thing in this entire movie. I mean, seriously. Okay, so one of the Martians decides that he must stop Santa Claus and these children from bringing their message of peace and love and individuality back to the Martians. So he devises this brilliant scheme in which he will kill both Santa Claus and the children in one fell swoop. So he goes in there and offers to give them a grand tour of the airlock. And the kid and the little boy is all like, I don't trust you. But even despite that, Santa Claus is all like, oh no, I'm sure he means well. So they go with him and go into the airlock. And I mean, this is just ridiculous because, I mean, not only does the kid not trust him, but he completely understands how an airlock operates. And he, like, even spends, like, a minute explaining all of the ways that the airlock works. And the Martian guy is all like, you are a very intelligent and well-informed young Earthling. And, like, even after all of this, him and Santa Claus and his sister still go to the complete other end of the airlock and give the Martian guy an opportunity to shut them in. I mean, even though the kid didn't trust him and knew how an airlock operated and that it was possible to kill them by closing the door and opening the airlock, which I mean is just, oh my god, seriously, this has got to be the worst thing in this whole film. I mean, just seriously, this is ridiculous. Super technologically advanced fight scene, go! And here we have a fight scene between the good leader of the Martians who just wants to bring Santa home and, make all the children of Mars happy, and the evil seditionist who, tried to kill Santa and the kids by locking them in the airlock. So, obviously, once this plan gets discovered by the Martian leader is none too happy. But instead of using their technologically advanced ray guns and stuff to try and stop him, he gets into a fist fight with this guy, and they wrestle for 2 minutes straight, even though they have super advanced ray guns and freezing weapons and all sorts of stuff. Why do they start fighting with their fists? And it is so bad. There are even pauses where he hits them, and then there's a split second and he's like, oh, I mean, oh god, it's just such a corny fight scene. I mean, really, it's just ridiculous. And here is a picture of the Martian children learning, which is apparently accomplished by hooking their brains up directly to a box of beeping lights that tells them, and now calculate to the 5th power the orbit of Mars in relation to Jupiter to the 10th megatron of pi. And they just lie there and listen to this for hours, and that's how they learn, with the help of the flashing light box. Which is actually another continuity error, because it was actually established early on in the film, where the Martian leader's wife was complaining because the Martian children have all of their knowledge beamed into their brains, and by the time they can walk, they're like adults because they already know everything there is to know. So yeah, besides being ridiculous, this is yet another continuity error in the film. And here we have the Earth children meeting the Martian children for the first time. I decided to include this particular picture because that little girl is making the robo-face thing again while her brother is talking to the Martian boy and shaking his hand and stuff. And I mean, that robo-face, just look at it. She just stares into space like she has brain damage or something. Every time she is with her brother and he is talking, she makes that face in the movie. And it is just ridiculous. And then, after they meet, they start playing and laughing for no apparent reason whatsoever. They just start laughing. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, now here we have a picture of Santa Claus learning that he is going to have to stay on Mars for the rest of his life and make toys for the Martians. And his biggest, I mean seriously, his biggest response to that is
Oh, Mrs. Claus is going to be very, very cross at me if I don't get home in time for dinner.
It's not all like,
Oh no, I'm going to be trapped on Mars forever, or oh no, I'm going to have to be slaves to evil alien overlords.
his biggest concern is that his wife will be mildly annoyed with him that he is not coming home. I mean, I know Santa Claus is supposed to be a happier guy, but the Santa Claus in this movie is just so obnoxiously nice and stereotypically Santa Clausy that, I mean, it's just ugh. And of course, because it is Mars and it is space and all that stuff, that instead of giving him like space elves to work with, he has a machine that has ball, bat, doll, and car arranged on the side, and he just like pushes a button all day long and out pops a toy automatically. Which, I mean, I, don't kids want more different kinds of toys than that? I mean, I think there were a few more boxes. It was like train, and then it was like baseball glove, and like that's it. I mean, I can understand that the Martian children probably aren't going to be very creative with their toy ideas, but I'm pretty sure even back in the 60s there were more toys in the universes than balls, bats, dolls, and cars and trains. I mean, it, it's just kind of silly. They should have like made more like Martian toys. You know what I mean? Like like a portable shrink ray, or like a space puppy or something like that, instead of the default toys that kids on Earth would play with. And now we see the evil Martian villain yet again at work, trying to sabotage Santa Claus's attempts to bring toys to the Martian children, and happiness and cheer and all that good stuff. Except now he has two dumb henchmen that he somehow picked up for some unexplainable reason, just like out of thin air. And they live in a cave, and they're protected by a nuclear wall or something like that that stops them from being found. And so now they're sneaking into Santa's toy shop at night and trying to, sabotage it so that he can't make toys anymore. And why are they just using like a default work flashlight? Like, look at the henchman like close to the center of the picture. Like that's just like a normal like work flashlight. I mean, it's freaking Mars. They have ray guns that can freeze people solid. Why do they still have such primitive flashlights? I mean, they should have made some effort to make it more spacey instead of just a generic work flashlight. I mean, come on, you could have put a little more effort into making something look more spacey and accurate. I mean, the ray guns may look like milk jugs on a stick, which is probably what they are, but at least they tried to make them look somewhat spacey. And now, of course, because villains can never win, they got discovered by the Martian King, and he's holding the evil villain and one of his henchmen hostage in, I kid you not, the Royal Martian Utility Closet. The king of the entire planet of Mars. I mean, he's the king of the entire planet of Mars, and he's just holding them in like a utility closet. And I mean, they didn't even try to make it look spacey with any blinking lights or anything. It's just a utility closet with cans of paint and a mop and stuff on the wall. It looks exactly like all they did was just go in like the utility closet that happened to be on the set and just shot it there, which I mean shows no effort on the part of the crew to try and make anything look special and unique at all. And I mean, I mean he. I mean, and another thing, I mean, he's just like the king of Mars. Couldn't he get his. Doesn't he have like a million henchmen of his own? Couldn't they hold him in there? Why does the royal king of the entire planet of Mars have to hold this villain and his henchmen hostage in a utility closet himself? I mean, seriously. It's just. Why would a king stoop so low? I mean, seriously, it's ridiculous. And so, of course, the villain escapes because we can't have the show end with just them being trapped in a utility closet forever by the king of the Martians. So, they manage to escape and try and go and kill Santa Claus, which, doesn't work out so well because they get attacked by the children with the only known weakness of grumpy Martian villain guys. Children's toys. And I mean, seriously, this is the most ridiculous villain defeat sequence I have ever seen in a movie. Like it is like a 5-minute montage of nothing but the kids like shooting Nerf balls and like throwing baseballs and like having toy soldiers march at him and like showing all these toys and they're all like flying at him and he's all just like spinning around in circles and going for like 5 minutes straight. I mean, that is the defeating sequence, and he just like spins around and like collapses and faints from too many Earthling toys, and like all the kids needed to do is just like use Earth toys on him, and he's defeated. I mean, what kind of anticlimactic ending is that? I mean, they could have at least had another silly fight scene to the death with their bare hands, with him and the Martian King, or maybe him and Santa Claus. I mean, at least that would have been slightly more compelling and make slightly more sense than this. I mean, yeah, this is the most ridiculous like villain defeating scene I've ever seen in a movie. And now we see that everything worked out in the end after all, and the most ridiculous and retarded of all the Martians decides to become the Martian Santa Claus and, don a hat and, inflate a balloon and stick it in his suit so he's nice and fat and stuff. And they all have a nice good laugh for no apparent reason and just sit there and laugh for like a whole minute. And everything is all good, and they go back to Earth. And, of course, they were never rescued by NASA. We don't know what ever happened to NASA. For all we know, they just went right on past Mars and, like, crashed into Jupiter or something like that. But, the film doesn't care about that, so it all ends nicely, wrapped up about as nice as an extension cord. So, yeah, that's the movie. The end. Thanks for sticking with me and watching my thing this long. I'm not sure who would bother listening this whole thing, since I went like way over the number of stills. But probably Tiffany, so if Tiffany's there, hi Tiffany, thanks for putting up with my stupid thing. And anybody else, that's all folks. So thanks for listening, and I hope I get a decent grade on this, because I put a lot of work into it, and even though, it sounds like I was groaning and moaning about this movie, I actually had a lot of fun and laughs watching it, and this project actually ended up being a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. So, good night, folks.